Stall.
Just gonna stall. Just a minute. Give it a minute.
I think they're good. I think they're good. They'll have time. We'll figure it out.
The meeting is called to order. Welcome to the Wednesday, November 1st Board of Education meeting. We met from 6:30 to 7 to discuss personnel matters in executive session. And right now, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Introductions. Dave.
Dave Hurst.
Meredith Moriarty.
Jonathan Fishbein.
Michael Cooper.
Jody Monroe.
Christine Beck.
Lynn Lenhart. Charmaine Widgesinger.
Holly Dellenbaugh.
And Judy Kehoe.
Do we have PIG students here tonight? Yay. You have to stay for till 9 o'clock or when the meeting is over, whichever comes first, but make sure you come up afterwards and get your papers signed, okay? Can I have a motion to approve the October 18th, 2017 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anybody here from Student Senate?
I'm so glad to see you guys.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah,
You can use the mic.
And
Just lift right out.
Yep, just introduce your name and introduction.
I'm sorry, I'm really congested, but I'm Olivia Miranda, I'm the co-president.
I'm Pat Ungerbride, I'm a student representative.
So we've basically just been working on our backpack program so far. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it from last year. Right now we're doing the dodgeball tournament again. The numbers were a lot lower this year than usual, but we had about 22 teams sign up, and the money for that is going towards the backpack program. So we've really just been focused on that. We have the Panera bread donations every Thursday night. We go at 9 o'clock and pick them up. And then once a week, we do a can collection at either Price Chopper or ShopRite, whatever has the better sale. And we just have been filling backpacks on Friday mornings. Any questions?
Go ahead, no, you first.
do you know if the number of backpacks are the same as they were last year, or have they increased or decreased? You
They
might not
have
know.
increased a lot.
They
I
have
think
increased
we're
a lot.
around 50.
Wow.
That could be off a little. 56. So yeah.
And my question was about homecoming. Do you know the turnout, like what?
We don't do homecoming, that's
At all,
canceled,
okay.
but it was a lot. I think Mr. Irons was saying that like 400 kids didn't go out of the whole school.
It seemed really, I stopped that evening and it seemed
Yeah,
like it was the
it
largest
was-
number we've
there
seen.
was
It
so
was
many
very
kids
nice
there.
to see that many
I
kids
think it's
come out.
about 1,200.
1,200,
Yeah.
which is amazing. Okay,
Anything else?
Thanks for coming.
thank you. Superintendent's report?
A couple updates. The District Strategic Planning Committee, we're meeting next week. We did summarize all of the comments from the individuals who came to the community forum, and we'll be sending that out to the committee in advance to review, and you'll all get a copy of that as well. At the next meeting, we are going to be reviewing the responses, and we're looking to draft a survey that we would be sending out to the community and staff and students as well. It'd be a little different for each group to get some additional feedback, and then begin some work on the mission statement. So that's our plan for the next meeting. Also today, I did have a student forum, and thanks to Student Senate for adjusting the dodgeball tournament dates, because I was told that kids would not come if I was contending with the dodgeball tournament. So there was, I'm sure that's true. So we had a decent number of students. We actually asked them the same questions we posed at the community forum on what were their hopes and dreams for them as they leave Bethlehem, and what skills they thought students should have before they leave. And they could either email those to me, or they could respond before they left. And then we had a lot of great discussions about various topics related to some of the Chromebooks, technology, wireless access, some questions about later start time, their thoughts on that, some questions and discussions about diversity. So it was a really good discussion, and I'll be following up. Last year, we did an email response and sent it out to all the students so they could hear what students were asking or saying, and then what the district is doing in regards to some of those. So it was a lot of fun.
How many students did you say came?
About 20 or so.
Okay.
25 maybe.
I heard there was some encouragement from some senior teachers to show up.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes.
So, but 20, I mean, that's still, was it mostly
It
seniors?
was after school. No, there were some freshmen and sophomores there.
Okay.
A lot of seniors, but
I'm curious, what was the feedback on the Chromebooks? Did they like them?
yeah, Mr. Nardelli was there, and I was expecting a little more controversy about them, but no, it was more just about wireless access.
Okay.
Around the building, because in the past, they had access, public access everywhere, and with the Chromebooks, it's somewhat restricted to library, cafeteria, public areas, so they were asking about that. There's some other little, the styluses, and we surprised them that every student's going to get a little attachment feature in the coming days.
So they don't get
So,
lost,
one problem solved. So,
Excellent. Okay, good.
and that's my report.
Is the access something that's an issue that will be addressed, or is it something that was done on purpose?
It was done on purpose because with all of the new Chromebooks, we weren't sure about the bandwidth capacity, so we're monitoring that this year to determine if that's working, if it's not. They have access in all the classrooms, it's just they can't have their Chromebooks on and their phones accessing the wireless at the same time.
Oh,
see.
interesting.
So, yeah.
Now, are you doing the books?
Oh, yeah, do you want to do that? The recognition now? Yes.
Yes, that was,
Yes. Where's Mrs. Painter? Sorry. Yes, so, sorry, one other thing. The reason many of you are here, this is Board of Education Recognition Week or evening. And the board has some books that they're going to be donating to each of the buildings. But Mrs. Painter is here because we have many young artists who would like to recognize the board through their artwork. I would like to just say to members of the public and as well as the board that I really appreciate all the time that you give. I don't know if everyone knows, these are volunteer positions, and they don't always get thanked a whole lot for all of their service, but I know that you all are here to improve the district, and I really appreciate all the time that you put into this, and this is just a small kind of a tribute to thank you for the time that you serve, so thank you.
thank you.
So, Mrs. Painter?
Yeah, so what we did was we had a summer show, and the students that were involved in the summer show, we picked the best of Bethlehem this year, and then we also selected 10 students to have their artwork reproduced on note cards for you, so that you may send thank you cards out. So students, you may see your artwork out there in the world a little bit more. And to say thank you to our students, we also had note cards made for our children as well. So I did put a little PowerPoint together so you could see some of the images, but I am going to call the students up to give them their note cards, and we'll line them up here to recognize them as well. So our first student is Kaylin Van Branken. And I don't think she could be here tonight, but Lillian Masters? And we'll say thank you to her anyway. And next I have Shayna Albreeze. And Alexandra Rivard. And Nora McLaughlin. And Stacy Lee. And May Healy cannot be here tonight. I know she's got sectionals tonight for volleyball. It's her final game tonight, so she sent her apologies. And Luc Saubier. I don't think Luc could be here tonight either. Next, I have Joseph Dwyer. And finally, Sophie Bernacki. So you all have two of each one of theirs in there. So it represents everything from the elementary school to our high school. Great. Do you want to move?
Yeah, I'm going to have you guys maybe Yep. Can you guys hold up your cards so I can see them? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Do you need to present
Going to do the school boards also, like just continue with the rest of the kids.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
okay?
And we also have tonight, every year, the New York State School Boards Association puts on a convention. This year, they had their convention in Lake Placid. I was thrilled to be able to go up and see some of the artwork at the show, and I know many of our board members were able to see the artwork, so I want to thank you very much for spending the time taking a look at the artwork. The artwork just got returned back to me, so I've been giving it back to the students here. But I did invite all the students here tonight to receive an award for their participation in this show. Each art teacher selected 2 pieces of artwork from all the students that they have in their classes, so it's a real honor to participate in this exhibit. So thank you to all the students that participated, and I'm going to call you up here to receive your awards. So there's about 24 of you, so I'll have you come this way. Okay. So I have Corinne Anderson, Sadie Bashant. I'll have you hold your applause to the end, because there's a lot. Malvina Batagaran, Emma Blackwood, Madeline Caffarelli, Cecilia Chow, come on up, Sophia Courts, Meredith Kubella Derer, Olivia Dodge, Avery Hartel, Julia Higgins, Constance Laller, Patrick Lendon, Kara Leonard. Oh, I'll keep up with you. Keep you busy back there. Grace Meredith, Michael Okowanowski, Luke Peters, Caitlin Rabinstein, Jake Soka, Rowan Tu, Nicholas Williams, Wyatt Williams, Ethan Wolfsberg, and Rachel Zemsky. Yeah, let's make some lines. Avery. Yeah. And then Cecilia. So we have to just take a step. Emma Blackwood, you were first. How about you guys?
Yep, get close together. You can squeeze in just a little tighter. Awesome.
Can we let their parents take some pictures?
Yeah.
Parents want to
And the parents Don't be shy.
You know, what I find is each kid looks at his or her own parent.
I know.
And so they're all, like I got that with the prom pictures, everyone's looking at different places.
These are good ones.
School board recognition is one of my favorite days on being on the school board. I think it's great that we get books donated to individual schools on our behalf. But before the students leave from the Nisbet Conference who had their artwork displayed, it was beautiful. What a great representation of our school. And the cards that were designed were absolutely fabulous. I use them all year long, every year. So thank you. One more round of applause. So this year, I had books donated to Glenmont on my behalf, which is great. There's a couple of history books in here. One is The Mount Rushmore Face That Couldn't See, Blast Back, The American Revolution. This one is Raimi Nightingale, The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which looks very interesting. National Geographic, which the kids always love, on monkeys, great for research projects. Animals by the Number, and Shy, which looks very interesting. So,
My books this year are going to Hamgrail. The first book, Weird But True Facts, and let me just, I opened this up and it was really an interesting fact, something that really, of course I can't find it, because it referred to what they did in a drought out in LA to prevent water from evaporating, and it was something I didn't know, but now I can't find it. But anyhow, there are a lot of really interesting facts in here that probably no one ever knows or has read about. It looks like an interesting book called The Witch Tree. And of course, for this time of year, scary tales. That sounds really, exciting to read. Needless to say, I haven't had a chance to really read any of these. Wonder. How a Major Motion Picture. Now a Major Motion Picture. So if some kids have seen that, they probably want to read the book. What this story needs is a room and a Zoom. It's interesting too. Princesses Wear Pants. I kind of like that. Mad Science Academy. The Weather Disaster. That looks kind of interesting too. And Pete the Cat and the Cool Cat Boogie. Okay, I assume he's a dancer, whatever. These look really exciting. I don't know who picks these out, but they look really good. So Hammergrill, you enjoy these. Okay, Charmaine.
This year, my books are going to Slinglands Elementary School. It looks like a range of books, some obviously for fourth and fifth grade readers are larger. There's a range of topics. Some of them are historical fiction, some are mysteries, some are more picture books. I actually have a graphic novel. But what struck me about them were the illustrations in them. For example, this one, Sea of Change, has really bright illustrations. This one is illustrated by a Caldecott medalist, The Three Billy Goats Gruff. And one of my books doesn't have words in it at all. It's all based on pictures, so I believe a student would make up his, her, or their own story by looking at the pictures. So thank you. I want to thank the district for purchasing the books and donating them in my honor. Oh, and if I might, I want to acknowledge my spouse in the back of the room. He's here for the 9 years that he's that he's supported me as a board member. Thank you.
I have books going to Eagle, and I think I love this idea. I think this is
Isn't
so
it great?
I was looking at them in Alexander Hamilton, which I know particularly because of the interest in the musical, at least in my house, is going to be very popular at Eagle. And they're also, it looks like some a book by the author who wrote The War That Saved My Life. This looks like another The War I Finally Won, and I know that was a very popular book with the elementary school kids, as well as some graphic novels by one of the favorites in our house, Baby Mouse, and a couple picture books, including one by Kevin Henkes, who is one of my personal favorites.
I'd like to thank my wife Laura for being here this evening and for putting up with all the evenings out for board events. My books will be going to the high school, and I have Be the One, 6 True Stories of Teens Overcoming Hardships with Hope. Far from the Tree, How Children and Their Parents Learn to Accept One Another. Our Differences Unite Us. So at the end of the meeting, we'll take a poll of the students on whether this should be put into the fiction or nonfiction section. This book I want to talk to the librarian about taking out. It's Vincent and Theo, the Van Gogh brothers. 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. Take back your power, embrace change, face your fears, and train your brain for happiness and success. And Dawn of Infamy, A Sunken Ship, A Vanished Crew, and the Final Mystery of Pearl Harbor. So high schoolers enjoy these.
My books are going to the middle school, and what Audubon did for birds, Katie Scott and Kathy Willis did for plants.
Oh, wow.
So, don't try putting it in your backpack. Fault lines in the Constitution, the framers, their fights, and the flaws that affect us today. And in flipping through it, I learned for the first time where lame duck comes from. Apparently, when in the old days, when somebody couldn't pay their debt, they were called a lame duck because they waddled away from it. And later on, it was applied to politicians who lost because they got their wings clipped and could only waddle away from it. Philanthrop parties? Wouldn't you agree with that? Philanthrop parties. Basically, it's parties. It's an 18-year-old young lady who put this book together, Lulu Cerrone. And it is a party planning guide for kids who want to give back. And there's some really great ideas in here. Super Women, if you saw the movie about the NASA scientists who got us to the moon.
Hidden Figures.
I'm sorry?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. One of them's profiled in here, as are some other superwomen. Stormy Seas, story of young boat refugees, and I hope the middle school enjoys them. Thank you.
My books are going to Ellesmere, and I just wanted to say, again, this is such a wonderful program. Books mean so much to me, so I love being able to give them to our schools, and especially Ellesmere. I was there today helping out in their library because this week is their book fair, so it's wonderful timing. I've got some great books here. This is Mr. Lemoncello's Great Library Race, which is a sequel to Mr. Lemoncello's Library, and just based on this, I want to get out the first one so I can get caught up because it looks really interesting. I also have here a book called The Wizards of Once, and it's from the author of How to Train Your Dragon, so I'm sure it will be very popular at the library. And one other book I have here just looks fascinating. It's called Dazzle Ships, World War I and the Art of Confusion, about a true story of ships in World War I that were being torpedoed by submarines. They couldn't figure out how to properly camouflage them. And instead of painting them blue or gray, which you would think to blend into the ocean, they painted them crazy patterns and designs, black and white stripes. And that somehow that confused the submarines. They couldn't tell which direction they were going in, whether they were going east or west, whether they were turning or coming towards them. And therefore, they could not shoot them from the submarine. So that's really fascinating, and it looks like a beautiful book.
Just to talk about some Board of Education items, this week we had our, winter concert, or our first annual concert of the year. There were supposed to be 2 last week, but due to bees in the auditorium, we had 1 this week, which, is that a first? Bees in the auditorium?
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard.
I'm still laughing about that, but the concert was great. I was sad that we had to condense the music groups and cut out a song from each of the groups, but it was tremendous. Our musicians are absolutely phenomenal, and I love going every year, or every time there's a concert. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the Nisbet Conference I attended that I was not able to talk about at the last board meeting because I didn't have a voice. But the sessions that I went to had to do with mental health initiatives with students and how teachers and nurses have the first ability to recognize anxiety and social issues within our schools. And I hope that we as a district look to see the information that's being provided from these type of conferences. I believe it was outlined in the onboard, the conferences that I went to, about how, well, not just social anxiety, but test anxiety, and there are key moments in each child's educational career that you can notice different things occurring, like a kindergartner who is not socializing that well, and then at 3rd grade they continue to go to the nurse's office because after a school break they're not able to return to school, they miss their parents, things that aren't normal milestones at a particular age. Middle school, you start seeing more of the testing anxiety kick in, all signs of like general anxiety. And from the information she provided, it was interesting to see that it seems like some of it's really textbook anxiety cases. And I hope that we look to educate our teachers and how to recognize that so we can alleviate those issues early on or get the intervention that's needed. So that was one of the interesting points that one of the sessions that I went to, and it was a great conference. And lastly, I just wanted to see and talk to the board about sports and see if I'd be interested to talk more with Mr. Keys and have him come into a board meeting to talk about selective classification, how that works, criteria, just things that I would like to get more information on as a board member and how the structure of some of our sports team works. So I just wanted to bring that up to you as a board, that I was interested in having him come in to ask questions about how teams are structured and selective classification and things along those lines.
Can you elaborate on what you
Yeah.
mean by selective classification?
I can. One of the things that I've noticed was, and it's just this is just one individual team. Girls soccer, we have 2 modified sports team, and we have 40 kids combined on both of those teams, 20 on each. And from looking at kind of the rosters and looking at it, there's a lot of 7th and 8th grade students who are comprised of those modified teams. And then when you get up kind of to the JV level, you see the 9th graders playing on modified. They're not making it as 10th graders. It's more of a development of like 7th and 8th graders on those modified teams, to just from what I've seen. So I wanted to get more information on it. It's not anything that I'm familiar with, and I just wanted to ask questions on how it works. Is it more of, because the selective classification on modified teams, you don't have to take selective qualification. It's not required. So because we don't have a freshman team, those students never have to take those tests, and then they could go on JV as 9th graders. So I just
They have to take selective classification.
for 9th or
No, for-
JV.
No, for if they're a 7th or 8th grader to play up on JV.
Right. But they
Not
don't
as
have to
9th.
take it as, they don't have to take that test as on a modified team.
No, because it's a modified.
And we don't have a freshman team.
Right.
So those students entering 9th grade don't have to take the test. So as 9th graders, they automatically qualify.
For
But-
JV.
For JV, yes.
For
So.
consideration of JV.
Consideration of JV, yes.
of course, yeah,
So I had a lot of questions I wanted to ask that I'm not really familiar. I don't have, I have one student I have a child who plays tennis, and I'm not really that familiar with the sports structure, and I just wanted to ask more questions of something I'm not that familiar with and how it works, and
Is the concern developmental? In other words, not developing ninth graders because of the way they fall, or?
it's a twofold concern. Yes, that we don't seem to have the development of the ninth graders who play as ninth graders and maybe don't do travel soccer or don't have that opportunity. And more of, we have seventh and eighth graders playing modified, that they don't have to do selective classification, but they're getting much more playtime than ninth graders, and the development piece isn't there. And this is just, for me looking at it, as somebody who's not a parent of a student who plays sports, and I just, as a board member, wanted to get a better understanding of how it works and how the team progresses.
I would certainly be interested in that as well.
Yeah. I would fully support him coming and asking questions, but having had two athletes, I would caution the board of overstepping and talking about how teams are chosen, how kids are moved. If you stay off, just in general, if you stay on modified, you're going to get more playtime. It's always a trade-off between the coach and the parent and the coach. But if you're a high school student, you're eligible to try out for any team without. Selective classification means kids playing up who aren't high school students. And he can obviously answer the questions.
Right.
But I would caution the board, unless he says something that's horrendous in terms of policy implications, or is going to hurt a student, I'm just saying, I want to caution the board about overstepping our bounds, if in fact we're going to be asking him, unless there's a gaping hole on how those teams are chosen, because I think I would caution that.
Well, I'm going to be forthcoming on the fact that we have 14 people on our girls' soccer team, and I believe 6 of them are ninth graders, which means that they were playing modified as 7th and 8th graders, and there are 2 10th graders on our JV team. Now, this year, we have 9 ninth grade players playing on the modified black team, which is the upper level. The play time, or the starters, are not the ninth graders. And I do have concerns that we're not developing the older students, and we're focusing on the 7th and 8th grade students to progress quicker than we would students that are in the high school. And so I'm being forthcoming. I'm just going to ask them questions. I'm not trying to be defensive, but we have 40 kids on 2 modified teams for 14 slots on JV. That seems unusual. So I do have questions as a board member about that. And it's not just girls soccer.
Sure.
It
No, I
affects
understand.
other sports teams, and how many kids as a board are playing up. Selective classification is supposed to be, it's a contact sport. Are we really doing the right assessments? Are all the kids getting the fair chance to play and have that opportunity? Is it, you have to participate in travel to be moving up in the division? I think they're all fair questions, and
I think questions are fair. I also know when he does his budget presentation, he talks about modified JV and varsity.
Right.
And the expectations of what it means, and we can always ask him that in person, but he says that every year. Modified, it's about equal play and time developed. When you get to JV and varsity, it's not, and people know that. But you can ask him questions about that.
I'm not
but
sure
it's-
that is actually occurring in certain sports. If he may say that that's happening, but I don't know if that's actually what's happening, and I don't know if he would be aware that it's not happening.
Sure.
I just
No,
want to
no, it's not
ask
about
questions,
even
gather
playtime.
information,
Yeah.
find out more
I
about
think at
more
JV and
sports.
varsity,
I
it's
would
not about
suggest
equal
that we
playtime.
Table the discussion
Yeah.
until he can
Yeah,
be
that's-
here.
Exactly,
to-
yeah.
to
Exactly, it's just
discuss it.
informative, just discussion. I have no athletes.
So what would you like me to ask Mr. Keys to do? To have a presentation, or just to provide you information and be here to answer questions?
Yeah, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but we could have a presentation that, on selective classification, how it works, and then if we want to ask them questions from there. Does anybody have suggestions that they,
Well, that's very clear, the selective classification. It's just middle schoolers that, by their ability, by their ability.
that did
can
change
qual-
a few years ago.
Can qualify
The
for a
process-
high school
the
team.
the process changed. I think a refresher on it, and the ability to ask Mr. Key some questions about how the teams function.
Maybe you could do just a quick refresher on how it
selective
works, and
classification
then
and what the process is.
Yeah.
if the board has any questions.
Yeah, and then we can ask them questions, if anybody has any.
So the next meeting, I think we're at another building, so one of the ones,
That
Yeah,
were here.
yeah.
okay.
And that's all I have. Does anybody have?
Well, since we're discussing books tonight, I just wanted to recommend to the board on the NISBA website, and it's been on, I think, the Eclipse this week. There's a very good podcast. A school district recently banned To Kill a Mockingbird because of perceived controversial material. And so there's a very good podcast discussion about that topic, and it's well worth listening to.
that on?
It's on the NISBA website.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts.
Yeah,
They're
that's
pretty
great, thank you.
fast to read.
I think it was Friday, I attended, the days sometimes get mixed up, but Friday I went to Eagle, and they had their Spooktacular, and it was spooktacular. They have a hallway that is like a haunted house, and what was really unique was that when I went through, they said, I could hear that Mr. Fishbine's coming, scare the jeebies out of them. But when some of the students went in, sometimes if the students were concerned, a teacher or Laurel Jones would take them through and, make sure that every kid could experience it. The fifth graders who were the scarers, the different classes took turns so that everyone could enjoy the evening. The kids were so well behaved. It was a really wonderful experience.
Any kids crying?
No, I saw kids, a little concerned when they went in, but as I said, I saw Laurel take one child through, and I saw when they came out at the other end, they had a smile on their face. So it was good all the way around, and everybody had a good time.
The parents are unbelievable at all the schools that do the Halloween
They are.
gatherings. I was an Eagle parent, so I know the hallway very well, and the contributions the parents have to do for hours and hours at a time to make it the way it is that evening. But even at Glenmont, they do the same thing, and all the other schools. And
I think they did. Because Slingerlands, there were people out walking in costume on Friday night, so I figured.
yeah, it's just amazing what a community we have to put this together for the kids, and they look forward to it every year. So,
I
and
would
Laurel's
second.
here, so thank you for doing that this year.
I would second that. I was at the one in Hammergrail, and their haunted house this year was pretty impressive. And I know that the middle school Halloween extravaganza also took a lot of work and was a lot of fun for the kids.
Did you have to do drop off and pick up, because that's always fun at the middle school?
I got out of it.
Well, thank you to all the teachers, the principals, and the parents, because it really was a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you.
Does anybody else?
I happen to have a meeting in the high school, so I stopped by the cafeteria and had lunch.
Oh.
And I will say that homemade turkey soup exactly tasted homemade. So I want to kudos to the food services department. The staff were very attentive to me in terms of helping me get through the line and where to sit and all the rest. I do want to appreciate the garden club at the middle school for the straw statues that really grace the front of the school. It's a nice thing I think the community looks forward to. And also, in terms of athletics, I know some people had, not concerns, but questions about the track program. And since the coaches have been appointed, the executive coach has held at least 2 meetings. One was open to any potential athlete and parents to ask questions, and he came to the Booster Club meeting this week, again, to explain things, and the first practice is Monday. So he's gone out of his way to actually hold sessions, open sessions, for anyone who has any questions on how the program will be run.
If Mr. Keys is going to come in, should we have him talk about the track program? Because I've heard similar questions and concerns from different people just about how the track program's functioning, so maybe just a quick, brief thing on that as well.
I guess you could ask him how it's being
Yeah.
structured. It hasn't run yet because it's starting on Monday, but the coach is just fielding questions on, how does it work to have not gender-specific coaches, but event-specific coaches?
Gotcha.
And to be honest with you, at the Booster Club meeting, I asked him about, because he's talked about setting goals for each athlete, and I asked, will every athlete on that team have the ability to set goals? Because some athletes are saying, my goal is to set the school record, or my goal is to run at sectionals. Not every athlete's going to have that goal. So I asked, well, can any athlete set a goal? He said, absolutely. If your goal is to lose weight, you need to come and tell me that that's your goal, because he is going to monitor every single athlete. Because he said, at the middle of the year, of the season, I'm going to go back to your goal, whatever that goal is, and to see if we have made sufficient progress together on that goal. So I was very impressed that he is really going to be not focusing just on top athletes who are going to potentially win points for the team, but for any student, but he wants the students to take responsibility to set a goal for themselves, whatever that goal is.
That's a good idea. Anybody else? Okay. At this time, we'd like to recognize any visitors who would like to discuss an agenda item. No? Okay. Item number 7, finance. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items 1 through 7.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just thank all the donations.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you to all of our donations and donors. Thank you. Professional personnel item number 8. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 10.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I would like to recognize a new employee. We have Heather Quinn, who is the CSE chairperson. If you want to say hello, welcome. We're happy to have you, and thank you for coming to the board meeting, and we're happy to recognize you and welcome you. Thank you. Thank you. Item number 9, support personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items 1 through 2.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'd like to recognize Ronaldo and Sagnia, and if I said that right, I'm hoping I did. Welcome.
It's Insonia.
And so I was close.
I'm excited to be here, and I'd like to thank the superintendent and the board for having me, and look forward to serving the community, students, staff, and administration here at the district.
Well, we welcome you, and Ronaldo is going to be our provisional assistant superintendent of buildings and grounds. So
Can I
thank
ask
you.
a quick question? Is that a new position?
No.
No, okay,
No.
thank you.
From retirement.
Okay, oh yeah, there it is, right there, yep, thank you.
Item number 10, other action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following action items 1 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'd like to recognize visitors on a non-agenda item. If you could state your name and speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daisy Paglia. I am a parent in the district, and I addressed the board at the last meeting regarding the issue of adoption of a policy that would maximize inclusion of out-of-district students in the Nature's Classroom program. And I felt compelled to come and speak to you again because I would like to invite the board to acknowledge and address the unique challenges that are faced by families whose students are placed out of district due to their disabilities. You know, there's many facets of this topic. I was glad, for example, that you all brought up the Halloween parties in the district, because I know that students who are placed out of district are welcome to attend such events at their home elementary school, but I think more needs to be done to make inclusion a reality in those situations. For example, my child never went to his home school, so technically being invited to participate in events in his home school presents some difficulties. I think the out-of-district students and their families could have a liaison with the district or the board, a parent representative, to highlight some of the issues and challenges we face that are not really apparent to most people. And also at a board meeting, I know at various times you highlight different programs in the district. You could have a presentation that is devoted to what education do students get when they are placed out of the district. For example, my son is in a BOCES program. BOCES offers a lot of wonderful programs, which I was not familiar with before my son started attending them. And I think it would be beneficial for the board and the community at large to be familiar with that. So I think it's really twofold. How do we support the families whose students are placed out of district? And also, the broader question is, what can we do to make sure that we're providing the education that allows as many students as possible to be educated within the district? So I thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you for your comments, and I just wanted to let you know, I know this is your second board meeting that you've attended, but the policy committee is looking at the requests that were brought to the board, and we are looking at that, so I don't want you to think it's going unnoticed. And you raised some very good awareness to some issues that I think were very helpful, so I appreciate your comments and you coming and speaking at the board meeting.
Thank you.
Hi, Christine Johansson. I did speak at the last. Christine, thank you for acknowledging that the board will be looking into what was our request at the last board meeting. So I'm going to take the opportunity to speak to the board about some of the other experiences that parents and children face when they're in an out-of-district placement. I too, like Daisy has recommended, I would like to see that a parent advocate be established for out-of-district placements. I think that one of the biggest shocks and challenges for a parent when their child is facing leaving their school district, leaving the classroom that they're in, and moving into an out-of-district placement is that there's many things that you don't know to talk about or ask about. There are things that happen that you don't understand necessarily. And having another parent by your side and helping you through that process would be incredibly supportive. Just some things to think about for children who are placed out of district. Some of our children placed out of district spend 45 minutes on a bus in the morning going to school. Some of our students have therapy that they receive outside of school. It's not provided by the school. It's not paid for by the school. It's monies that parents out of pocket. And many times those therapies happen during the school day because that's when those therapists are able to provide those therapies is during the regular business day. I can tell you that we are currently out of pocketing $6,800 for therapy for my son to help improve his reading and writing skills. And he has to go on Monday mornings at 8 a.m. So he misses 2 full hours of school on Monday mornings because of that therapy. And it's 35 miles out of his way to go to school then from there. Recess. Children who participate in BOCES programs are able to benefit from the resources in whatever district is available where BOCES has the students. But if the resources aren't available, the students don't benefit from those activities. My son doesn't have recess because there are noon hour aids for lunchtime in the school in the Guilderland district where he's placed, but there's no recess. So he goes many days, no outside time at all, unless the classroom teacher builds that into their day. Push-in. Students have the opportunity, provided the school where the student is placed is willing to allow students in the BOCES classroom to push into the regular education setting there in that classroom. So my son's at Westmere, and he's been able to push into things like library, but doing a push-in to math isn't really workable for a 5th grade classroom when math may be done at 9 o'clock one day and at 1 o'clock on another day. We also need to think about students transitioning in 2nd grade, 5th grade, and 8th grade. All of those are key times for students who are in out-of-district placements, and because you have K through 2nd grade classrooms, and you have 3rd through 5th grade classrooms, and then you have middle school classrooms and high school classrooms. every single end of one of those periods, a student has to transition to another school. My son's at Westmere this year. Next year, he could be at Niskayuna or North Colony or back at the middle school here in our district. All of those are possibilities. So being able to have a child with a base of social peers is very important to them, because that transition could put them in a completely different social setting within the school, within their own classroom. My son has 5 total students in his class, 4 other students whom he socializes with on a daily basis. It's part of his IEP to be pushed into the regular education setting with his neurotypical peers, but he doesn't always have those opportunities. I think that's important to keep in mind. School hours vary from district to district. When you're talking about a child who's placed out of district, kindergarten to 5th grade, those parents are put in a very difficult situation trying to find after-school resources. It's more difficult than the average parent. None of the Bethlehem resources for after school were available to our family. We had to place our son in after-school care within the district that he was placed in, which meant a 30-minute out-of-the-way jaunt for me after work every day to pick him up and bring him home so that he had care between the hours of 2 p.m. and when I got done with work at 5:15. Field trips, they're not really an option. So finding a way to ensure that children who are on out-of-district placements have those opportunities would be, I think, helpful to them in those socializing needs, as well as getting a broader educational experience. Again, I want to reiterate that I think that Daisy's point to having a parent advocate for out-of-district placements would be incredibly helpful both to the district and to the parents whose children have to be placed out of district. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for taking the time to present your comments tonight.
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Johansson. I'm a parent in the district. I've addressed the board before, and I'll keep my comments brief. I just want to bring it back to the policy that I appreciate that you're working on, but as I'm sure you're aware, those policy meetings are not available to the public, so I'd like to just make a couple of comments here. I'd like to save some of you that may also be on that committee a little bit of time. I've gone on a hunt and can tell you that you're not going to find a policy to base it on in any of the districts in the area. It's not a policy that exists. I was a little disappointed to find that, I'll admit. But then I quickly realized that most education policies at the district level are all based and driven by education law. And so dug there and found that also there's really nothing to base it on in education law. So I'd like to open an invitation to each of you. I will email you all with my contact information. I would love to sit down with any of you to discuss this, because we're going to address this particular policy to allow for students that are in a special education placement out of district to participate in district field trips. Then it's going to take leadership on the part of this board to create a policy that is not driven by education law and that is just driven by what is right for the students and embracing a culture of inclusion that the district has put forward. So I, again, will send you that contact information. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anybody, did you?
Were you going to say something, Lynn?
No.
No. I just want to, on the prior action item, I just want to thank our town. They're doing the turkey trot and the fireworks at the middle school. That was what we approved, but just, it's a great community event. I know they use the district property, but I just want to say it's a lovely annual event that happens.
Anybody else on a non-agenda item? Okay, future meetings and events. Our next board meeting at Ellesmere is on November 15th at 7 p.m. And we have a December 6th board meeting at the high school and December 20th at Eagle Elementary. Anything else? We are going to go back into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. And
We need a motion to.
We need a
Second.
motion to go back into executive
First,
session.
second, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Carries.
PIG students, come on up, you're done.
So just make sure your name goes on the list, and if you need a signature, any of us can.